Oh, hello. It's Sunday, and I have a really special What's Happening in the World report coming out tomorrow, which I'm excited to share with all of you. But I just wanted to take a brief moment, get outside, get some fresh air, and tell a quick story or two. So, I went to get some Thai food yesterday, and when I'm going to my table, I overhear a girl in her early 20s with a table of 4 say to her friends, I heard the vaccine doesn't really work. In failing empires, there's these echo chambers that exist. People start retreating back into their own asylums of thought processes, logical fallacies, Dunning-Kruger effect in full effect. It was a cognitive bias where someone thinks they know or they overestimate their ability or expertise in a given subject or field more than they actually know. They're smartasses. They think they know. So, however hopeless we think the situation is, and let's also keep in mind that no economic change can exist without government action. I think it was the Adam Smith Institute or one of these foundations just figured that out. Was basically, government and corporate are so intertwined now. They exist as one entity, and so any change in one needs to occur in the other. Clearly, look at all the lobbyists, which we should have banished decades ago. So then you have that, and then, as many of you know, it's a little windy. I'm familiar. There was extreme force winds throughout UK, London, and Germany, maybe France as well. Rebel's explanation of the jet stream, how it's forcing the pressure from North America across the ocean coming up, and the jet stream is contorted, and that's why they call it a sting. They come up with all these terms, meteorologists and stuff. I'm just, I feel like I learn a new term every year because things are so extreme. I know a lot of people were devastated by that, and, a million people lost power. It's awful. But then, as many of you know, I play multiplayer games online. I've been a gamer my whole life, since Nintendo and Genesis. Yes, there were CDs and cassettes back then. And I play a game called PUBG, PlayerUnknown Battleground. Blah, blah, blah. It's not a dumb game. It actually requires skill and waypoints, and like I've said before, it's free, and you communicate with a squad of 4 people. At least I play in, and you're up against 99 other people. And I was in a squad today. It's fun. It requires thought. It kills time. It is enjoyable. But this, I was with a girl, another guy, and a mute person, and the girl is being just really loud and obnoxious, and like, name of Smashing Pumpkins album, how old are you? You're too young. Just being really chatty, over the top, caffeinated, and was just being goofy. And I could handle it up to an extent, and then I was like, look, girl, no one's gonna be alive by 2040. And she's like, oh yeah, cite your sources. And this other guy chimes in and is like, yeah, cite your sources. And it's like, peer-reviewed literature states, for instance, the aerosol masking effect is keeping us cool by 0.5 degree to 1 degree Celsius. And she comes back at me and you can't explain science to students. Never argue. Nietzsche said this, a staggering genius, I know, said, never argue with stupid. They'll drag you down to their level. Facts. And so I was, hopelessly trying to explain to them. It's so hopeless, it's beyond hopeless, right? We've moved past the point where there isn't even a fighting chance. And Peter Carter just reported that last year, the hottest ocean temperatures were on worst case scenario. It's awful. And so I'm getting off topic. Back to the match. I had to mute her because she was like, I don't think it's as bad as you say it is. I'll be pointing up at the sun at 2041, and I'll be like, look, my fingernail, it's just a little bit hotter. Totally fine. I said, your little monkey brain can't can't understand exponential muted. And then the other guy keeps coming back at me and plays this card. This is what people do. There's at least 40 million men in America that are like this. Well, how do you know it's peer reviewed? Like, how do you know it's legit? It goes through a process. I watched the whole video with Guy. Like, it goes through a process, gets reviewed by a board, gets resubmitted. Like, it goes through this gigantic process just to even be published on, academic websites. And he's like, well, what if a couple pastors from churches got together and like wrote an opinion piece about something? Would that be fact? Like, trying to play middle card smartass. These types of guys that are like, how do you know it's even red? But what if it's actually blue? And he comes back at me, well, there's some people, and this is the way they say, there are some people that say that numbers aren't real. What would you say to that? Oh, can you count your fingers? Is the sky blue? Literally, people are this fucking rocked out of their minds. Young people, Gen Z, kids, their heads full of fluff. It's stuff. Nothing's there. Nothing's there. There's no substance. They're the last byproduct of a capitalist society delusion. Deluded. Many of them, I don't mean to overstate. Let me back up. I find I'm talking like my parents or some shit. There's some that are extremely on point and know what's going on. Like, scarily so. And then there's some that are so fucking deluded, you can't even objectify reality. You know what I'm saying? Because they make everything else subjective. It's a logical fallacy. Everything else is up to interpretation. Well, what are even thoughts? Okay, right, let's see how far that gets you. Those type of guys, I'll shoot them in the head first thing when the collapse starts going down. Completely fucking useless. What would you say to that? Well, some people say that. Shut up. It's really depressing. But I'm not depressed. I'm fit, healthy, felt like running today. Emotionally free. I get to often think, I'm gonna change gears. I get to often thinking, because all of you are very well educated. I get just as much out of this as I put out. Hopefully, entertainment, that you're not alone. I get to, let me switch gears to something personal. I often get to thinking about my past romantic affairs, and I'm kind of embarrassed of my former self. Not really. I'm just like, well, that was like an earlier version. It's sad that men don't really fully evolve till like their late 20s, early 30s. They mature and kind of settle out. At least most of us do. Of course, there's sure some psychopaths out, crazy people out there, nutso people, but yet women are like in their peak, like, fertility. Some still look great in their 30s and 40s, but like most women are in their 20s look, flawless. How could you not? Men too, but we more even out, like I said, in our 30s and 40s, and then start to decline. But like I said, that was my 20s self. Like, I might have been a little cringy, a little like over the top, extreme. I'm sure my ex-girlfriends were like, because I meet younger guys now that do things and I'm like, God, like, he's so cheesy, don't act like that. It's so, like, you don't need to say anything, bro. But I was like defensive. I hadn't quite, done my own inner work and accepted myself fully. I hadn't hit that critical threshold, threatened to my own life. And, I felt suicidal several times in my adult life. Before I left Dallas, I was in the psych. I ended up in the psych ward because I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm not living, like, I cracked. I didn't know no gun, so I mean, I couldn't really even do anything. I had to get something creative. But point is, all the good ones, fertile ones and all that were taken like by 25, 30, and I would go back and I would almost take any of my exes back, or would do things differently going back, except the one that I married. The one that I married was a Christian, and that was dumb, and I would never go back to that shit. And I sometimes I wonder if she watches my shit. Like, I don't know. No, like, that was big no. But some of the other ones were cool, and I don't get why, like, one of them, many of them, just didn't fucking stay with me. Like, didn't believe in me. You know, but that I don't need to blame that on them. I'm not putting that on them. I needed to go through my own evolving. I needed to hatch, you know, to grow up to a full-fledged adult. Because you are in your 20s, but you're not really. And so, I'm here. I've arrived. I know where I'm going. At least in the long term. Short term, I really don't care. Like, this is retirement. You get what I'm saying? I want to cover that. This is fucking retirement. There is no 15, 20 years from now. 10. There's none of that. So, like, do the things that you would be doing if you were retired. Fuck programming. Fuck work. At least work that you don't feel joyful about. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of videos out there on the internet that are like, or YouTube lately that are like, I didn't want to follow the American dream. That's not what I want to do. You know, the peer pressure and all that. And that's like burnout. That's like one thing. But really knowing where we're going, which far too many people say on, you know, YouTube, when it's verified. Like, United Nations just came out and said this, you know, and I said that to the group today. And they're like, they don't even take that serious. No one takes any credibility or any seriousness to any, you know, anything. We're just dumb apes. We're just dumb apes that evolved just enough to have a consciousness and posable thumbs and, you know, a prefrontal cortex. Like, they have memory too. They have working memory. We just got a little bit edge on the game, but not for much longer. Okay, it's getting a little too windy. Covered a few things here. Never argue with stupid. The Dunning-Kruger effect is everywhere. Paul did that video on irrationality, and it's like, yes. I just immediately replied, yes. Are people irrational? Yes. Echo chambers and evolving as a person. Scott, no, I don't want someone I just want to, like, fuck, like, 2 or 3 times a week. Like, I meant intimacy. I meant, like, a long-term committal thing. Like, again, you're so extreme, dude. You're so extreme. Okay, just some loose thoughts. I'm really grateful, again, for the people on here that educate me just as much as, you know, I entertain you. And yeah, if you thought it was hopeless, it's beyond hopeless. But at least you still have your health, right? Right? What's happening in the world? February 21st, tomorrow. I'll chat with y'all later. Peace.